Well, we continue our campaign saying no to Galamsey because the latest we are gathering is that satellite imageries released by the international forest watchdog Global Forest Watch has revealed more than 1,400 deforestation alerts in just the last 1 week alone. This actually capturing the disturbing loss of some 22% of the country's forest cover in the last 20 years. The body says majority of the loss occurred in the Ashanti region and western regions of the country where Galamsey or illegal mining activities occurred the most. This afternoon on the polls, we're expanding the conversation on protecting our forest cover in the wake of revelations also coming on the back of the Hotline Documentary, Forest and the Siege. We have excerpts of that documentary for you, plus analysis and conversations with our experts here on the show. But first, though, let's get to the details of this latest report released by the Global Forest Watch, which we have on your screens right now, pointing to, first of all, the fact that as a country, we had in all 7 mega hectares of natural forest cover, extending to some 30% of the landmass area that we have as of the year 2000. But 22 years down the line, Ghana has lost some 1.53 mega hectares of that forest cover, and that is the disturbing image that we're talking about. That's translating in all to some 22% of our forest cover, a decrease in what we had 20 years ago by some 22%. Now, beyond that as well, we do know that when you take a look at the map and the forest cover alerts that we're talking about, 3.9% of our tree cover loss occurred in areas which are dominant, where, of course, the dominant factors of, this deforestation is prevalent. So you take a look at, the southern parts of the country, parts of Ashanti region, you of course can't see from the map there that there's a very significant level of deforestation taking place. As part of the driving factors, we know and understand that deforestation is accounting for some 3.9% in all. And this is all according to the Global Forest Watch report, as we're pointing out to you. Beyond the forest cover that we have, the areas recording, that speedy loss of forest cover include the Western and Ashanti regions that are leading the chart here. Some 536 hectares of land, being lost there. And in terms of the Ashanti region, they are within the range of 356, Eastern following through Central and the Bono Ahafo areas are all responsible for, in all, 58% of the forest cover loss. So that's the magnitude of challenge we're having, experiencing much more of these problems in the Western and Ashanti region. The translation of that is that obviously the areas where we record much more of activities of illegal mining, you see a corresponding increase in the level of forest cover loss. But in all, government is seeking to create a buffer zone policy which will tackle largely issues of conserving wildlife, protecting, to regenerate and maintain forest cover. There's also the portion where government is targeting improving water quality, because that's becoming a concern for many who are living in riverine areas, and of course these areas where illegal mining activities are very rampant. There's also the fourth leg to this, which is talking about influencing local climate, which is part of this whole raft of policies government is introducing under the buffer zone policy in a bid to address this. So that's the policy approach government is using. And in fact, President Akufo has been speaking about this at the Africa Climate Change Summit, where he actually defended the track record of his government in fighting illegal mining. The president talked about, government's management of the forest resources, and here's his view on the matter.
We placed a ban on illegal mining, the phenomenon we call galamsey, which was destroying our water bodies, vegetation, and our forests. Some 20,000 young people have been engaged to plant more than 30 million trees in 2 years to create jobs and restore degraded land. These policy initiatives are already using positive results to the attainment of the SDG goals, particularly the goal of reducing our carbon emissions. Additionally, I've established an advisory group of prominent private sector chief executives who are setting up a $100 million SDGs delivery fund and a $200 million green fund to complement government's efforts at tackling climate change.
Okay, the position of President Akufo there, but Joy News' Hotline Documentary is pointing, to a different set of facts that we have on the ground, because in the forest itself, there is distraction and it's becoming vast and wide. Erastus Asare Donko has been to the Apamprama Forest Reserve, and here are excerpts of our Hotline Documentary.
In the midst of all this distraction and the billions of dollars in gold taken from this area, communities remain the poorest.
They brought in a transformer and wired the town, so we thought we would be connected in about a year.
Benenebane community, for instance, is yet to be connected to the national electricity grid. It has been reduced to poor infrastructure and a deprived community with few opportunities. Their farmlands are gone, forests degraded, water sources polluted, and the attendant change in climatic conditions have affected farming.
It is the forest that gives farmers in this area rain to farm. But now, if God doesn't intervene, we will not have the rains to grow our crops.
The indigents of Benenebane share their dilemma.
We've not gained anything. Look at our schools, toilets, and our town. We are helpless.
When they come, they promise a lot of things, but they don't fulfill these promises.
Meanwhile, Ghana has secured a $103 million World Bank loan to, among others, restore cocoa lands, engage the restoration of polluted water resources, and reclaim degraded forest lands, including the Apamprama Forest Reserve. Just before airing this report, we decided to go back to the Apamprama to gauge the situation there. We found many Chinese miners are back to mine in the forest. Some have hit the ground mining, while others have set up camp to continue mining in a forest built for reclamation.
You can see fresh excavators, about 8 drums of diesel.
Very shocking revelations there by Erastus Asare Donko, who's now discovering more, as we're learning of, Chinese nationals back in the forest reserves. And in fact, that's corresponding to the level of forest cover loss that we're experiencing in this very latest report that we're seeing. It's a good time now to be bringing in Nana Boachi Tumasi Ankra, who's project manager for Tropin Boss Ghana. That's a civil society organization focusing on forest cover across the country. I will also convener for the eco-conscious citizens joining us via Zoom. Thank you, gentlemen and lady, for joining us. Let me start off with you, because yesterday, we're having this conversation about this whole campaign to ensure that we protect our forest cover. But the latest we're discovering out of this Hotline Documentary is, we keep losing more, 22% as of now. And who knows what may happen in the next 10 or 5 years. I mean, for those who are not coming to terms with the likely effect, just paint that picture for us about the potential damage and what this means for our livelihoods.
I mean, we all know that our forests are our lungs. So just take it as a person and you are removing your lungs. What on earth is going to happen to you? We also know how our forests protect against what shall I say, flooding and disasters and so on and so forth. And as the lady in the video eloquently put it, it also aids the livelihood of people. I mean, I am angry. I'm extremely angry. I mean, what we are doing is supervising mass murder because we know the consequences of what we will do. And then to have the gall to sit at a conference and to say that the policies are working is beyond belief. is just beyond belief. I mean, journalists have put their lives on the line, have gone and, conducted these documentaries. We can all see what is going on. And some are engaging in, a fantasy world, pretending that policies are working. We know what to do, and we should just do it. We've had Professor Frimpong Boateng's report, no action has been taken. We had the distraction for gold, no action has been taken. We have this current documentary. What else do we need to wake up to the fact that we are supervising our own destruction? Because when the last tree dies, the last man dies.
And then there's the question as to, government policy and the conviction by the president that the policies are indeed working. Is it all bad, or there are no successes at all to celebrate from what the
the facts speak for themselves. I mean, we're not living in an imaginary world where we want things to go in a particular way, but we're not prepared to take the steps that will give us the outcome we want. The president and all those in authority know the steps they should take if they want to have the desired outcome. How do we have our forest reserves invaded by Chinese and other nationals? We even had the case in Setri where 3 young people were shot and 1 was killed. And when the police came, they initially decided to arrest the brother of the deceased rather than the one who pulled the trigger, who was only arrested subsequently. How does this happen? It often happens because we've allowed it to happen. And we know our policies are not working because we're not putting them into practice. Look at the images you are showing us. Does it look like any policies are in place? Of course not. So as I said, I'm angry. It's one thing to do nothing, but then to sit at a conference and give an impression which is just an illusion, to me, is just unacceptable.
What's your projection, really, as to what the future holds? Are we going to lose more, looking at what's happening now?
Well, unless we take the bull by the horns and have take the right steps, if we want to, instead of contemplating going to Niger and going to invade the place, what we need to do is focus on what is happening here. If we want to put the military there to get rid of all the illegal miners, and then what you can do is use technology to alert you when there's entry into the forest reserves. You have communities that can be equipped to give you a notification, and then you deal with it. And then you make all forest reserves a no-go area. Repeal LI 2462, which does not help us in any way because it allows unfettered access to our forest reserve. Let's be clear. The fact that people have licenses doesn't mean that they are doing the right thing. So let's make our forest reserves no-go areas. Repeal LI 2462. Take control of our landscape. Take control of our forest reserve. What shall I say? Remove all those there right now and make sure you monitor. Implement the, do something about Professor Frimpong Boateng's report. We know the people who are destroying our forests. The Chinese don't just come there. There are Ghanaians who are behind them. We know highly placed people who are supervising the destruction of our country. I mean, it's pure wickedness, wickedness, depriving people of their livelihood, of their source of water. They don't see anything from the destruction. A few people are making a lot of money. And then the World Bank is giving money for what? Money should stop coming until we put our act together, because they're also being complicit by giving us money, which they know is not being used for the right purposes.
Let's see from Nana Boachichumesi-Ankra, from your reports. Of course, this is the Global Forest Watch report pointing at some 22% forest cover loss. Do you have any contrary figure, or perhaps something pointing to a more staggering revelations, if we could put it as such?
Okay, thank you. I would say I do not have any contrary figure, and neither do I have any cause to doubt the figures that are coming because of the prevailing actions and situation that we have in our country presently. And actually, what we know already has also been buttressed by what your reporter has investigatively found out, which have been aired in the media space for everybody to see. So for me, the figure that is coming from Global Forest Watch is no news, because it is something we are aware of based on these actions, including the Galamsey menace and other deforestation driven activities, including illegal farms and all that. So for me to hear about the figures that the Global Forest Watch is putting out, I think that it is likely to be the truth, and I actually have no doubt about it, because the situation on the ground actually speaks to those figures, and so I think that it is right.
But from your perspective, what's the driving factor, the major driving factor, pushing this? We're hearing of deforestation, which is accounting for some 3.9%. According to this report, beyond that, are there more factors? Illegal mining must be part of this.
Yeah, sure. There are a number of factors in our country that drive deforestation, and one cannot discount the contribution of illegal mining, which is commonly called galamsey in Ghana. However, that is not the only thing, but whatever it is, including expansion of farms into forest reserves, wildfires, but now we see more of these anthropogenic or human-induced drivers working more, which is really in our situation, the expansion of agricultural practices into forest reserves, and also this galamsey situation which is happening. And so for me, even though there are other minor contributing activities like illegal logging is also contributing, but compared with the galamsey and the vast nature of the destruction that galamsey causes, you cannot compare that to even what we have always dreamed about, the illegal logging, and then probably in some areas, especially in the dry areas or the transition areas of Ghana, where fire is also prevalent. So I think that we should be much concerned with all these drivers, but most importantly, looking at the vast nature of the destruction that illegal mining causes to our forest, it is most important that we really face it head on. Otherwise, in the next decade, we might not be able to point to any place called forest in Ghana.
And government is running a policy of, the green agenda. The last target, I believe, was 5 million trees across the country. You've been doing some assessment on that as well.
It is interesting that our leaders keep calling some of these actions and then patting themselves on the back that there are a lot being done. Even the approach, I think the last time we spoke about it immediately after the Green Ghana initiative, I spoke clearly about it, that the initiative is good, but the approach is a bit worrisome, because even where they are planted, you cannot monitor. But then to have an effective kind of afforestation and reforestation program, there should be a means of monitoring, so that you can audit and know that you put in this much and this is how much is remaining. And so if you give the seedlings to people and you do not know where they are going to plant it and physically monitor, then I wonder where in those times they were even mentioning figures as survival. In fact, you cannot know the survival rate of your effort when you do not know the total number that were actually planted. And so their survival rate they were calculating survival rate over a number of seedlings supplied, which is very erroneous. Actually, beyond that, I think that there is the need to look at our actions and efforts when it comes to enhancing carbon or putting in effort in greening our environment or our forest. How do you actually input something where you know that there are other leakages? So, for instance, you are telling farmers to integrate trees on their farms as a means of enhancing carbon in landscapes in Ghana. However, you are allowing a leakage through illegal mining in our forest reserves. So how do you reconcile these? So for me, I think that it is a way of throwing dust into the eyes of the public if we are not seeing are stopping what is really causing the leakage. And if I say leakage, I mean causing the deforestation, and on one hand, trying to create an impression that we are inputting carbon or we are trying to enhance our forest. That is a mere deception, because it cannot be done.
Okay, so I recall that when this whole conversation around Green Ghana came up, you had your own views about it. Government said, okay, we're still scaling up the numbers, and we had another phase of the tree planting exercise. Did you participate? Are you happy about the gains we are making, at least just to show up the numbers and to reduce the level of loss of forest cover?
No, we did not take part in Green Ghana this year because we said the whole thing appeared to us to be a gimmick. You cannot be on one hand claim to be greening Ghana, and then on the other hand passing, what shall I say? You have EI 144 declassifying parts of Achimuta Forest, and then Parliament in November 2022 goes and passes EI.
And we're grateful to you, Wulasawa, and of course, Nana Ankra, for joining us on this whole conversation of illegal mining. I'm sure that we'll be back to the conversation again, but we have, some news coming through which we need to also take a look at. There's the new Patriotic Party addressing a press briefing just the day after former Trade and Industry Minister Alan Kyerematen pulled out of the race. Afenyo-Markin, in your shorts there.
The committee will issue its full report, and on this make the report known to the public after due consultation with stakeholders in the party. We have also received the withdrawal letter officially by Honorable Kyerematen, and the party has accepted the withdrawal without prejudice. At this point, we as a committee would like to again remind all party members that this is an internal contest. There is no loser, there is no winner. We need to put our house in order to face the NDC come 2024. So we would urge party members to help their own party by way of their conduct. There is no need in using social media platforms to cast aspersions, insinuate, attack personalities, and all. We also urge aspirants to continue to use due process to address their concerns. They should let their followers know that if they have issues, they should channel them to the elections committee. That is why we are here. And we have been meeting and listening, taking notes, hearing people, and we will not resolve on that responsibility. So we want to give them that assurance. There is therefore no need for anybody to take the law into his or her own hands, to say things and to do things that will hurt the interests of the party. We have only one NPP. For the time being, we have only one leader, that is Nana Akufo. We have only one government headed by the same person as President of the Republic, and we are encouraging all party members to respect the authority of the party. We have only one national chairman and one general secretary. We should show them respect as they give direction to all of us and ensure that we do what is right in the best interest of the party. Thank you very much.
Honorable, we heard you directing the aspirants not to engage the media. Why? Were you attempting to gag them?
Yes. Anything more?
We're told that the Honorable Kennedy Japan has specific concerns about the referral of his conduct to the discipline committee.
You were told by who?
We have sources.
Where?
We have sources within the
Where? Oh, come on. So you are trying to say that you have a fit columnist, then that fit columnist has misled you. If you are saying you have a fit columnist, amongst us, I'm saying that he has misled you. You said you have sources within our meeting. So you are saying that whilst we are meeting, some members of our meeting came to tell you something. Well, be that as it may, that member, so-called member, has misled you. There was no such thing.
So the Honorable Senator has no concerns?
How far were they? Those who have appeared before the committee regarding disputed issues, how far were that?
Maybe at the risk of being repetitive, we have met them, as I said, we've listened to them, we've heard them. We shall come out with our reports. And the engagement was fruitful. I mean, each time we met, the issues raised were all addressed. It's been that cordial. And I'm saying that we continue to encourage them to use the elections committee platform for their concerns to be addressed. And in doing, yes.
You said that you accept the withdrawal letter without prejudice. In this same letter, he says the elections you conducted were skewed to the favor of a particular candidate.
You see, when I said without prejudice, it's as simple as that. So far, those who have concerns have brought the concerns to us. Mr. Chairman, for the time being, hasn't said he's not a member of the party. He hasn't said so. So now that we've received his withdrawal letter, we will now wait for him to bring us some additional information, if he so desire, to furnish us with additional information regarding some of the concerns that he has raised. So we are waiting.
Would you request for that?
Will he be replaced? Because you need 5.
No, the constitution hasn't said so. If somebody,
just for purpose of clarity here.
You said you agreed with the electoral commission on some decisions going to November.
No, I didn't say that. I didn't say that.
What is it?
I didn't say that. You pay attention to me. You are. What I said was that in the discussions today with EC and aspirants and their reps, we deliberated on some proposals aimed at incorporating same in the guidelines.
Can you share these proposals with us?
When we are done with everything, we'll make known to you in full the guidelines for the November 4th elections, like we did previously in the superdelegate process. We shared the guidelines with you. Okay, so again, we assure you, that's why you're here. We don't want to waste your time. We don't want you to come and not get any information. It's part of the bona fides of democracy to work with the media, and we will continue to share relevant information with you.
Balloting procedure. Was it part of today's agenda? And when will it happen?
We have agreed to proceed with the guidelines. And like I said, when we are done, we would again serve you notice of the guidelines. And soon thereafter, we'll proceed with the balloting.
Thank you. So, Blessed, that is the spokesperson for the Elections Committee of the NPP, Alexander Afenyo-Markin, giving a breakdown of what happened before the Elections Committee and the aspirants. We know that today the agenda for the meeting was to at least iron out some of the challenges that the aspirants may have, then they'll proceed to the balloting. But as it stands now, the balloting has been postponed. because there wasn't a truce reached on the proposals by some of the aspirants. Mr. Afenyo-Markin wouldn't tell us what exactly these proposals were, but what he's saying is that they would sit around it, and when they agree on the modalities or guidelines for the upcoming November elections, then they will communicate to the media on the next step to take, including the balloting. So as it stands now, the balloting has not been conducted, and we're not given the opportunity to talk to the aspirants. We attempted speaking to the aspirants. They were saying no comment because that was a directive from the elections committee. I can say that at the time that Kennedy Japan was moving out, he actually used a different door to move out of the NPP premises here, so that they, avoid media attention and all. The second person was Mr. Fred Owari from the Baumia camp, and he said he had no comment to make. So there was an earlier engagement with the spokesperson for Dr. Afenyo-Markin. Once he was about to address the media, the committee spokesperson, Mr. Afenyo-Markin, directed him not to engage the media because that was the communication given to them. So as we speak now, the balloting has been postponed and the aspirants have been directed not to engage the media, and that was the address Mr. Afenyo-Markin has given to the media. Blessed.
It's clear from that engagement that some of the aspirants do have concerns and are beginning to raise that with the elections committee, and that's following through with the official letter also coming through from the camp of Alan Kojo-Kyerematen indicating his withdrawal from the race. But some other candidates also have concerns today. What are we learning from sources within?
So at the moment, we don't have the details of the concerns that the aspirants are raising, but we do know that after the National Council and National Executive Committee meeting, there were resolutions passed, including government officials becoming polling agents for the aspirants. We understand that there are also issues that have to do with the disciplinary action against some of the agents or supporters of the aspirants, and these were some of the proposals that were put before the committee. However, they didn't reach a truce. That is why it is intriguing that they didn't allow, or they are directing the aspirants not to talk to the media. At least we could have had the full details from the aspirants what their exact concerns were, but as it stands now, the elections committee asked that they should remain silent and not engage the media. So if you could realize from the deportment of the aspirants here that they were not comfortable. I approached Dr. Afenyo-Markin. He didn't seem so happy about the process, reading from his body demeanor and some of his assigns as well. Same as Mr. Kennedy Japan, whom before I could realize he has sat in his car and left the premises of the NPP headquarters. So there's some level of tension between the elections committee and the aspirants because they were not able to reach their demands ahead of the balloting. A reason the balloting has not taken place. I must also add that I attempted talking to the EC boss, Dr. Sribo Kweku, but he also said no comment. I insisted he wouldn't comment further on it. So information is actually sketchy about the demands of these aspirants, but what we have been told by the committee is that they have taken their proposals and work on them and later communicate to the media the next step to take so far as the November 4 election is concerned.
And Sami, are there any indications that there may be another meeting before November 4 just to address the concerns of these aspirants?
Surely, because the balloting has not been done, we know that they cannot proceed. So they have to trash out all these issues, get some modalities or the guidelines for the November 4 election before they can go into it. So the balloting is very critical among the four aspirants. We know Alan has already pulled out from the race. So that is the hurdle they have to cross now. First, agree on the modalities, proceed to the balloting, and after that, they will now continue to the November 4 election. So the hurdle for them to cross now has to do with the balloting. Until that is done, they may not be able to proceed further to the November 4 election, in which the committee is working around the corner to have them trashed out, and then they can move forward to the elections.
This meeting will be held without, the involvement of Alan Kojo-Kyerematen. Did we spot any of his reps today, at least appearing at the party's headquarters, to register the concerns he's raising?
Not exactly. I didn't see Alan or any of his assigns here. It's just the representatives of the 4 aspirants that are now left in the race. Dr. Free Akoto and his special aide came. Kennedy Japan was also around. Adainimo, I'm told, sent a representative here. So these were the people that were around. But as for Alan and his team, I can't say for a fact that I saw them taking part in this meeting.
My colleague Samuel Mbura joining us from the NPP's headquarters, where balloting was supposed to have been done ahead of the November 4 presidential race of the party. That's not happening anytime soon because there are some concerns, as we understand, being raised by the last 4 going into the race. We're not certain if all the aspirants are the ones raising the concerns or just a number of them are doing so, which has frustrated the process today. The EC unable to ballot for the candidates for that exercise to happen on November 4. There's a lot more unfolding on this story because the NPP MP for Doma East, that's Paul Chum Berima, says that the decision of Alan Kojo-Kyerematen to actually withdraw from the party's presidential primaries is disappointing. The former trade minister cited violence against his agents and supporters and unfair competition as the reasons for which he's withdrawing from the race. But speaking to journalists in Parliament, Paul Chum Berima explained that Alan should have stayed on.
In the first place, for me, I was a bit disappointed in one of our respected and reputable politicians in our country, and to be precise, in our party, somebody that we all look up to. Clearly, it's a personal decision, and we need to respect that. However, I mean, there were a few group of people who thought, oh no, we can associate ourselves with the dreams of Honorable Alan Kyerematen, and we believe that he's someone that can help this country and help our party. So I strongly believe, for the sake of those people, he could have gone through the whole process. I mean, sometimes I appreciate that, yeah, he may have gone through. Sorry, his supporters or agents may have gone through some of challenges, but for the sake of that person. Because now, somebody sits somewhere and say, so if you have died, what have happened? The man doesn't care about you. But he was dying for a cause. But the cause was jettisoned along the way by the person who holds the right to the cause. Which, for me, I think we could have done better. But obviously, you can't say much about it. It's a personal decision. He has given reasons. He said very soon he will tell us his political decision. We are young ones. Clearly, he's an astute politician who is a very great personality that we revere a lot. So he may have a very good reason. But some of the reasons that was stated in his letter, for me, if it's that based on that, because for that agent even going to the extent of fighting with his life to make sure he protect that ballot box should have been one strength for him to say, okay, listen, regardless of whatever it is, let's go through to the end.
Well, for now, speculations arrived that Alan Kojo-Kyerematen could decide to run as an independent presidential candidate for the 2024 elections, a move analysts say will spell doom for the NPP. But the NP believes that Alan Kojo-Kyerematen will stick with the party in the effort to break the 8.
In Ghana, we are actually looking for the third force to come. We are waiting for the third force. I don't know who is going to bring it. I don't see the third force in 2024 elections. The third force is not in 2024 elections. So our advice, and I know, it's not our advice, I know for a fact that Honorable Alan Kyerematen will not do that. That will not happen. I can confidently tell you that he is not going to go independent or anything. Never, he will not do that. But we are waiting for the third force for this country.
And expect your election headquarters here at Joy News to, of course, bring you all of the updates that you need in the run-up to the NPP's presidential race. Our top story here on the polls has got to do with a conversation on Ghana's green agenda. Recent reports pointing to some 22% loss of forest cover across the country. In spite of these challenges, President Akufo Addo is confident that his government's policies are working towards greening Ghana.
We placed a ban on illegal mining, the phenomenon we call galamsey, which was destroying our water bodies, vegetation, and our forests. Some 20,000 young people have been engaged to plant more than 30 million trees in 2 years to create jobs and restore degraded land. These policy initiatives are already using positive results to the attainment of the SDG goals, particularly the goal of reducing our carbon emissions. Additionally, I've established an advisory group of prominent private sector chief executives who are setting up a $100 million SDGs delivery fund and a $200 million green fund to complement government's efforts at tackling climate change.
And President Akufo Addo speaking there at the Africa Climate Summit happening in East Africa, Kenya to be precise. Awulasawa is National Coordinator for the Eco-Conscious Citizens. And Awulawi, of course, truncated the conversation at the point you were building up on what the way forward should be and the Green Ghana agenda, the fact that you did not participate in the tree planting exercise for this year, simply because you have some challenges with the approach government is adopting on all of this.
Exactly. And also, we did not think that government was actually serious about the Green Ghana. You cannot be serious about Green Ghana. On the one hand, all the publicity, we are planting X million number of trees. What happens to the trees? I mean, we had reports of some of the trees being munched upon by, goats and so on and so forth. But more importantly, if we are interested in greening Ghana, why haven't we done anything about Frimpong Boateng's report? We have asked for I've just had my mind going blank. We have asked for an independent inquiry to go on, a public inquiry. And then we are concerned about no action being taken about the documentary, Distraction for Gold. People put their lives on the line. They made a documentary. We could see those who are aiding the illegal miners to destroy our forests. To date, what has happened to them? Then we know what Akonta mining did to the Tano Nimiri Forest Reserve. What action has been taken? So long as no action is being taken when people vandalize our forest reserves, how do we take greening Ghana seriously? And we've also said that right now there should be a pause on community mining, because as far as most people are concerned, it's cloaking illegality with legality. It's just galamsey with called a different name. So we've asked for a certain number of measures to be taken so that we can see that we are actually serious about confronting deforestation and replanting. Otherwise, it's just like a gimmick. We bandy figures around. We talk about how much money we've received, jobs for planting, all sorts of things. But when you go on the ground, yesterday, watching the documentary, Our Forests Under Siege, anybody who loves Ghana would weep. What on earth is going on? And so these are the reasons why we didn't think it was worth it taking part in Green Ghana. We thought that if the government is serious, it will begin to do something about all the work that has been done so far, identifying some of the causes of the destruction of our forest and doing something about it. It's not prepared to do anything about it. There's no point in dancing to their tune.
I see. The issues surrounding justice for the Ghanaians, allegedly shot by some foreign nationals who are engaged in activities of illegal mining or mining, generally speaking. You've started that campaign, and it's been days now. Any update on this very story? And for those who do not know about the story, refresh us and try and give us some updates on what's happened so far.
Yes, the update is that as I said, I've got a mind blank today. I'm so angry about what is going on and how Ghanaians are being taken for a ride because we know our measures are not working. So to go to a conference and pretend that the measures, in fact, I don't even know what measures are working, when we can see the devastation, is just, I can't even find the words. But yes, in Seshri, known as Seshri Abroad, the young people there decided to protect their community from illegal mining. There was illegal mining going on by Chinese nationals. So they went there and were taking what the president said seriously about being active citizens and not spectators. Unfortunately, they were shot at. And according to the community, the person who shot actually meant to kill them. Whatever the case, one person was killed and 2 others were wounded and are in critical condition, according to our sources. When the police came onto the scene, what they did was to arrest the brother of the deceased person. And it was after a while that the perpetrator, the one who shot the deceased teenager, he was 18 years old, we are told, was arrested. In between, we called the regional commander to find out what was going on. He assured us that the accused had been arrested and was in custody. And he wasn't quite sure about what had happened on the ground because we were telling him that our information is that the brother of the deceased was arrested at first and wanted to know why. Because he reminded us of what happened at Asem, where again, the young people decided to protect their environment, not to be speaking and making speeches, but to actually protect their environment. And they were rather arrested. And our information is that the illegal miners were carrying on. Now we can see all the evidence about the Black Vault, so many places where, despite complaints, illegal mining is still going on. So to come back to the 3 teenagers, we want justice for them. We want the perpetrators. We are told they're in custody. We believe that to be the case. We want them to be prosecuted, convicted, jailed. We also want compensation for the families and for those who are in hospital as we speak. And we want assurances that the police, who are mandated to protect, will protect our communities from these menace of illegal miners. And this kind of incidents will not keep happening because we are told that it's been happening around the country. These illegal miners being armed and shooting at whoever chooses to resist them. So that's what we are saying. There must be justice for them and for other people who are being assaulted by illegal miners, whilst our authorities appear to stand idly by, doing nothing to protect them.
Well, Awolasowa, thank you for joining us. This is just the beginning of that story. We'll keep monitoring closely and bringing you some updates here on the Joy News channel. Grateful. And now, artificial intelligence as we know it is developing rapidly across the world. What's the positioning of Africa going into the future of AI? I have my guest join us shortly. You're on the pulse. We'll be back. And thanks for staying with us here on the Joy News channel. Now, artificial intelligence as we know it is developing rapidly across the world, and Africa cannot be left behind. That's the view and the push of the Deep Learning Indaba, a non-profit organization working across the continent to enhance skills, create African content, and also curate local solutions to accelerate the achievement of national and global development goals in a bid to ensure that Africa positions its youth to harness the transformative power of that technology. Well, joining us in studio now is Delali Akbanyega, Senior Data Science Lead for Shopify USA and also General Chair of Deep Learning Indaba, joining us in studio. And Shakir Mohammed, co-founder of Deep Learning Indaba, and of course he's a staff researcher at Google DeepMinds in London. Thank you all, gentlemen, for joining us here on the Pulse. Delali, the last time you came onto the show, you were very much positive about STEM. The fact that science and technology has the power to transform a nation. How do we situate that in the context of artificial intelligence? Because it's a new area,
Yeah, artificial intelligence really is a new area, and it's the basis of that is, again, it's a science field, and it has to do with really working with a computer or programming the computers in a way that they can do things that we think that they are intelligent. That's like the broader definition of artificial intelligence. And I think that this is the way to go right now. Thinking of ChatGPT, I think that's a popular thing that, usually people can relate to that because they have actually experienced things that AI can do. And I think that Africa is in a very good position if you think about most of the challenges that we face and the fact that AI started from the West. I think Africa is in the right position to actually harness some of those things now if we can actually build the right foundations, especially for our youth.
Yeah, I see. And Shakil, here's the point. There's already a global divide in terms of technology, the infrastructure itself, the global north, leading with all the kinds of technological advancements you can think of. Will Africa catch up if we're to go fully AI in the coming years?
It's a very common question to think about either leapfrogging or needing to catch up. And I think there's no reason for us not to be optimistic about either catching up or developing or taking a very different path to how we go about doing things. I think AI needs to be understood. There's the question of data, there's software, they're coming together, and they're being targeted towards different kinds of problems. So I think in some way what we want is not to catch up, not to build the same kinds of things, to build things that are specific for the health challenges that we are seeing across our countries. The kind of climate change, the previous segment you had was all about deforestation, using it for those kind of problems which are very specific, very localized, very centered in the values of the people that we're living in. And so in some
and maybe my question is stemming from the generic misconception that you find with AI as a technology, the feeling that, well, it's wiping out human intervention entirely and solely bringing artificial intelligence-led solution to all of our problems. Is that the way this technology works?
I can start, not entirely. I think this is a general debate that's going on. I personally believe that AI is here to actually make our life easier. AI cannot work on its own. We have to build it so we can build it responsibly.
Oh, really? Because the feeling out there is, okay, you tell it what you want and you get the response. That's all there is to it.
Yeah, but it's not really that. It's like, humans are building just like any other technology. We build it so we can build it the way we want to solve the problem that we want it to solve. And so I believe that AI is not coming to do anything harmful if done properly. Now, if not done well, then those are questions that we need to answer or things that we need to put in place so that it's actually done the right way.
And that's why I'm grateful that, of course, you're running this deep learning in Daba. How will that be part of the challenge you're trying to solve?
Yes, so I think the challenge that we have, again, going back to your previous question, is how do we build that kind of capacity to develop the kinds of solutions? And so the deep learning in Daba is one part of the kind of broader ecosystem that we need. And its mission is to strengthen machine learning across Africa. What that means is we need to build communities within Ghana and beyond and across our continent. We need to create new kinds of leaders, and we need to recognize those leaders. And I think that's a magical engine of communities, leaders, recognition, and they build each other. And then we'll gain the kinds of skills, build the kinds of connections. And this week we are here in Accra, and there are almost 800 people from across our continent, and they're building that kind of skill, network, and leadership that's actually needed to develop the kinds of tools.
Delali, in terms of practicality, what are some of the activities you'll be engaged in just to build capacity on the continent when it comes to AI?
Yeah, so three major things we do. One is like our Indaba. So Ghana has Indaba X Ghana. What we are doing this week is the mother of all Indabas, right? But
so you have everybody coming.
We have everybody from different countries coming. But in Ghana specifically, we are teaching people how to program, how to build machine learning models to solve specific problems. We are also connecting people with mentors that will guide them through their journey to make sure that what they are building, any help that they need, we can provide. We are bringing in people that can actually invest in the younger ones to build relevant technology. So we start from the grassroots. So we see ourselves as a grassroots movement, really connecting people in the communities. So in Ghana in particular, we also do quarterly events where we actually showcase things that we've built, the problem that we are solving, the solutions that is given to people. So that's one of the things that we do.
I'm particular about the schools because if you are to start, you have to start with a younger generation so we can build the momentum. How do you intend to work with the schools, work with more stakeholders together, Delali?
Yeah. Good question, and we are hosting this today at the University of Ghana, right? This conference. So usually the Indaba, by design, we work with universities, and so that's one way. So the Indaba itself encourages us to work with universities. I think that there are additional things that we can do, which is basically forming, industry, academia partnerships. Maybe working with universities to refine their course structure, because you have people in research, people in industry, and then people in academia. So how can you actually bring all of this together? So it's the industry academia partnership to ensure that the structure of the courses that the schools are teaching are practical and make the most sense.
Okay, we'll talk about the conference happening this weekend, some of the outcomes we're already seeing, but Shakil, many are still skeptical about even the technology itself. For those who do not believe in the future of AI, what's that one major factor to convince us, or at least if there are more, just to convince that indeed this is the future and this is what technology will become?
I actually, if there are people who are skeptical, I don't think I would want to convince them otherwise, because I think there are genuine concerns today around either employment or kind of working conditions or forms of injustice or dispossession, inequality that people are asking us to confront in certain kinds of ways. But I will say to people that we today are facing challenges that we have never faced before. The complexity of the challenges are also not single issue. Climate change is also affecting the way we are dealing with food, which is affecting how we create jobs and grow our economies. And so what we do need is then to bring every form of tools, intellectual resources, intellectual power, industry, thinking together. And AI, I think, is a part of that, and for us not to use that would be for us to hold ourselves back, to not want to fully address in all the ways that we can the kind of complexity.
We were talking about the schools earlier. In as much as students would want to embrace this technology, it's becoming like a cheat for many of the students who are using it to also write exams and pass. These may be some of the genuine challenges you're pointing to, I believe.
The questions of how education is changing is important, but at the same time, that example of the chatbot is so powerful, but think about all the other things that are going on. We face many kinds of what I call neglected diseases across our African countries. We can use AI to deal with a new age of dealing with the proteins and finding drugs and new drug discovery. We are facing droughts or issues of dealing with farming. We use AI both to help find diseases, diagnose them, give solutions, predict the forecast and future weather. And so I think there are many things that people don't see. So maybe part of our job, part of the work of the Indaba this week is to elevate those other cases that actually show value, benefit to our communities.
Delali, you've been engaging all stakeholders together with Shakir. What are some of the outcomes, initial concerns and, the positives that you'd want to highlight?
Yeah, the biggest concern is people are thinking, okay, what happens after the event? Right? How can we keep this? How can we keep this moving? And we are already putting measures in place. So in about Ghana, for example, we have reps in each region of the country, and our goal is to have local meetups, and that way people can connect at where they are. And then we have mentorship. So we are securing funds for people to really go and learn from others. The other thing that is a challenge to people is, how can we get the government involved? Because, we are kind of a non-for-profit organization, and we know in Africa that for anything to really fly, we need a government support.
Also to come.
So that's one of the things that we are considering. So, I'm sure several leaders are listening to us. So we need that support from the government. That way we can carry, our mission.
Okay, so let's open up the conversation about policy. If we're to consider policy measures, practically, in which areas would you want to see that, play?
And just before we came here, we left a session which was actually talking about Ghana's AI strategy and the policy that will come forward. And policy is taking many different forms these days. So part of your policy is about how we invest in universities and to create that kind of research, development and innovation infrastructure that's needed. Another part is around how will we check that the things we say should be working actually work. So that's the work of technical standards, and many countries need to work on standards. And I think the other part, which is the challenge, is that single countries, as we were talking about the divide between global north and global south, we need to cooperate more with our partner countries, with our neighbors, because it is through cooperation that we will actually pull the resources we need together, pull the computing power, pull the money, pull the people together. And so I think another major part will be around cooperation. And then, of course, there are all the issues of privacy, data security, onshoring, data governance. But I think it's a good space going forward.
Delali, anything of concern to you in terms of policy?
Yes, I know. At the same time, I think that Ghana has started a lot of good work here. Like Shakir was saying, we know that there are work going on. We have been invited even to those discussions. So representatives of Inaba X were participants in the session that they discussed policies. What should we put in place? How can we make sure that AI is doing what it's supposed to do? It's not biased.
I'm not even sure we have a policy. The last time, I guess there was a debate on the floor of Parliament about this, but no concrete policy as of now.
No, yes.
At least I'm not aware.
It's a draft policy.
Okay,
now.
right.
So I'm hoping that before the end of the year, based on what I was told, with some of the participants, I believe that before the end of the year, something will be presented, for review and approval. So I'm looking forward to that. I think that will also give people the confidence that, okay, this can be done in the right way, and we'll do only the good part, and we will minimize any risk with it.
Yeah. Even if we're to develop that will reinforce the conversation about peer review, because I'm not sure Ghana entirely has the capacity to know the scope of the technology and what kind of policies to be, formulating to address the challenges that may come with the AI. Shakir, the dangers there, about, collaborations, intergovernmental collaborations and all that. How crucial will that be to the future of policy making?
I think it will be vital, because the internet, which is the basis of all of this, is a connected source. Data doesn't know borders the way people are restricted by borders. So I think it will continue to be vital that we do cooperate and to agree. If we want to, we do have values as countries which are different, which need to support specific needs, but so we also then need to agree. So I think that will be a vital part, and we can't succeed without it.
Any message to parents, Delali? They are all watching you. These are tech buffs. Maybe they will describe you as such. But why should people why do we need to encourage more and more people, especially the youthful population, to take advantage of AI?
Yes, the last thing I would say is that AI has come to stay. Okay. We may have debate about it, but there are several challenges we have in Africa that we believe that good AI can help us solve. So my message to the parents that are watching is encourage your children who actually like science to pursue it, to take courses in these areas, build foundations in mathematics, computer programming, and computer engineering, and be curious. Let them be curious. Let them try things, and with that, they should also get mentors around, which we can also support. And with that, I believe that we can actually together build something great.
Indeed, and of course, it's just the beginning of a long week. I'm sure by Friday you'll be wrapping up the event, correct?
Saturday.
Okay, so this weekend, and so we'll be there to support you. But thank you, Shakir. You have any final words to share with us?
I'll just say it's an exciting time, but each of us, we should not think that AI is just like a train that's moving on its own. We can make choices, and now is the time for us to make those choices.
The future is AI. Thanks to Delali and Shakir for joining us here on the show. And we know that the Pro-Vice Chancellor of the University of Ghana, Professor Gordon Awandari, is urging the government to, as a matter of urgency, put in place measures to operationalize the Science and Innovation Fund to promote scientific research in Ghana. Speaking at the opening session of the 33rd Biennial Conference of the Ghana Science Association at the University of Ghana, Professor Awandari indicated that President Akufo Addo must ensure that the operation of the fund is, put in place to cement his commitment towards the development of science education in Ghana.
The Research and Innovation Fund, when operationalized, will support researchers, entrepreneurs, businesses to accelerate their progress. The fund is the main source of funding for the development of Ghana's innovation ecosystem. However, the government has not been able to operationalize the fund after Parliament passed the National Research Fund Act. Professor Gordon Awendare, Pro-Vice Chancellor of the University of Ghana, says the President must operationalize the fund before leaving office.
We also want to acknowledge the efforts of the President and his government towards the realization of the Research and Innovation Fund. This is an idea that has been talked about since I started doing research more than 20 years ago. Successive governments have promised and not delivered. This government went further by passing a bill to establish a Research and Innovation Fund. However, the fund has not yet been operationalized. Each year when the budget is read, I hope and pray that I will see a budget line that would operationalize the Research and Innovation Fund. We want to appeal to the President that this is an opportunity to cement his legacy by operationalizing this fund.
Speaking on the theme, combating climate change, the role of science, technology and innovation, senior lecturer at the Department of Agricultural Engineering of the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology, Professor Wilson Ejari urged the adoption of climate-friendly technologies to reduce carbon emissions.
Innovation, digital tools, and artificial intelligence should be geared towards enhancing adaptation and mitigation strategies. Collaboratively, we must support energy transition by decarbonizing energy production through solar, wind, nuclear, hydro, and hydrogen technologies. Electrifying transportation and agricultural sectors with electric vehicles, embracing green buildings, and smart growth are integral steps towards a sustainable future.
The conference brought together scientists from across the country to deliberate on how technology, innovation and research can be deployed to offer homegrown solutions to climate change and its effects. Honorary President of the Ghana Science Association, Dr. Michael Osai, called for support for scientists.
Thankfully, the government has passed the Science Research and Innovation Fund, but we need to operationalize that Research and Innovation Fund to provide local funding. And I also call on industry, private sector, because if you are a farmer and you will invest a little of your income into research, then research can develop solutions that you would face. But unfortunately, industry doesn't invest so much in research in this country. And I'll call on our industries and the private sector to also invest in research. So
Prince Kwame Kuduge's report read to you.
And now Ghana's housing deficit reduced by some 33% from 2.8 million in 2010 to 1.8 in 2021, partly due to the real estate growth and 72.8% increase in residential structures. At the State Housing Company Legacy Courts Commissioning, Minister for Works and Housing Francis Nso-Boakye emphasized the government's role in supporting private sector in the construction of more housing units. We have more in this report.
Ghana's housing deficit witnessed a 33% reduction from 2.8 million in 2010 to 1.8 million in 2021, partly attributable to the boom in real estate and a 72.8% increase in residential structures within the period. Speaking at the commissioning of the State Housing Company Legacy Courts, Francis Nso-Boakye highlighted that government is going to be actively engaging the private sector moving forward.
Government is not interested in directly developing and selling. The government's interest is to offer support to the private sector so that the private sector can develop, can can take the lead in housing construction. What the private sector lacks is the support from government, and that is what this government seeks to do by providing that support in the form of subsidies, by providing free unencumbered land, which is important because you know how land is very important in housing construction, and sometimes our land tenure system makes it difficult for people to access unencumbered land. But government is leveraging on public lands to do that. And one big important component of housing development is what we call horizontal infrastructure, which is the roads you see, the curbs, the drains, the sewage, electricity, water. Government is also leveraging on its traditional responsibility of infrastructure provision to make sure that the cost of housing will reduce. So that when the private sector comes in, already the cost has reduced. Therefore, it will translate into the reduced prices for the Ghanaian workers who are interested in owning their own homes. So that's exactly what we're doing.
However, the managing director for State Housing Company, Kwabena Ampofo-Appiah, indicated that the construction of the 198 housing units in Adenta would serve as a building block for constructing other housing units nationwide, adding that the various housing units will target mid-income earners and revenue accrued from sales will be used to fund the construction of other housing units.
The concept of this estate was to serve as a support system for our affordable housing project. So for those of you who are aware, we have an affordable housing project under construction now in Pokuase and also in Koforidua and in other areas. So we built this to sort of target the mid-income earners, put a little bit of a premium on the pricing so that the revenues that we generate from such estates, we're able to push it to support the affordable housing initiative. That way the government does not need to come up with any money for our developments. This entire edifice that you see, we didn't take one city from the central government. It was all 100% funded by the deposits of the buyers and also through our own internally generated funds. By rolling it out that way, we are able to also support our affordable housing initiatives without necessarily relying on the government's support for money. We are focusing on the mid to low income sectors for now. So if we say we're talking about low income, we're talking about people who, lawyers, police officers, nurses, etc. Those whose income might not be able to, without support or subsidy, will not be able to buy a home on their own. I mean, our research shows that in Ghana, close to about 60% of the population will not be able to buy homes without some form of intervention from the government. So there are projects like the one in Pokuase, in Koforidua, and other areas. Those are the ones that we target. And we're able to do that because the government provides the off-site infrastructure, like the roads, electricity, and water. By so doing, we're able to save the cost and transfer those savings to the end user. This development that you see have zero government subsidy because at least we are targeting the mid-income area, so the government does not need to support them. So whatever that you see here, they are paying the full price plus the premium that I said that we use to support our affordable housing.
And thanks for staying with us here on the Joy News channel. This is The Pulse. When we get back, we'll be crossing over to Nigeria. Today is Judgment Day as the courts in Nigeria will be deciding on the fate of their newly elected President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. As we speak now, the court is still sitting and delivering its judgment on 3 separate applications before it. I will tell you what's happened so far and get you some updates from Nigeria when we return. Pictures there from Abuja, Nigeria, where, of course, the Court of Appeal is actually sitting on the case and delivering judgment on 3 separate applications. We'll definitely update you on subsequent bulletins, but that's all we have for you here on The Pulse on the Joy News channel. I'm Blessed Soga. Thanks for spending some time with us. It's not over yet because we have entertainment coming your way as we bring you Let's Talk Showbiz.